Opening with the queen's pawn controls the center, and usually leads to a more positional development of the pieces. The Indian game begins by controlling the important e4 square with the knight, rather than a pawn. Sa4 builds a strong center by controlling the important d5 square, and creates a square for the knight to come to c3 without blocking the c-pawn. The king's Indian defense prepares to develop the bishop to g7, allowing white to build up a strong center which black will later try to undermine. Knight c3 prepares the e2-e4 pawn push and helps control the d5 square. Bishop g7 puts the bishop on the long diagonal in a move called a fianchetto. e4 takes full control of the center. d6 controls the e5 square and allows the light-squared bishop to develop. f3 supports the e4 pawn and prepares to develop the dark-squared bishop to e3 and the queen to d2, a common attacking setup versus fianchetto systems. Castling gets the king out of the center and activates the rook. Knight ge2 develops the knight toward the center, supports the d4 pawn and the knight on c3. c5 takes space in the center and attacks the d4 pawn. Bishop e3 develops the bishop toward the center and adds a defender to the d4 pawn. The pawn is now adequately defended. This activates a queen by developing it off of its starting square. Textbook play so far? Castling to the opposite side of the board normally leads to a sharp attacking game. Out comes the queen and into the battle. This threatens to win material through a tactic. This threatens to kick a knight. This permits the opponent to play a stunning move, ignoring the threat on the queen. Ignoring the threat on the queen, a difficult move to see. That queen was free for the taking. Right on target. This threatens to win a knight through an eventual fork. That was a free pawn. This gives away a free rook. That rook was free for the taking. This misses an opportunity to centralize a knight so it controls more squares. Black develops further. That pawn was free for the taking. This wins a pawn. This moves the bishop to safety. That was a free pawn. White was worse off, but now they are in a losing position. This is the strongest option. White's knight has moved to a square with greater activity and control. This is the way to win a pawn. This move puts the bishop on a safer square. This wins a pawn. This move puts the queen on a safer square. That pawn was free for the taking. This threatens to tactically win a pawn. This prevents the opponent from being able to tactically win a pawn. White activates the last piece, bringing all pieces into play. This takes an open file, a common method for activating a rook. This overlooks an opportunity to capture a free pawn. This defends a pawn that was under attack and had no defenders. This is an equal trade. Takes back. This blocks an attack on a rook. This attacks a queen, winning a tempo when it moves away. The pawn is now passed because it can no longer be challenged by pawns as it tries to promote. Very precise. Recaptures. This threatens to force eventual checkmate. This allows the opponent to force eventual checkmate. This forces an eventual checkmate. This maintains the balance in material with a good trade. This continues the checkmate threat. This steps away from the checking rook. And the game is over.